This video may contain information that is untrue purely because there is a lot to cover and I may have overlooked the correct information and not realized, or I'm just an idiot. It also may be missing certain gameplay elements and not flow well because there is a lot of stuff to talk about over the 3 games and hard to structure properly. Enjoy. The number one rule of Cook Serve Delicious: don't play on an empty stomach. In Cook Serve Delicious 1, 2, and 3, you cook food and get hungry. Food. The series was developed by Vertigo Gaming Inc., with David Galindo being the lead developer. The first installment in the series, Cook Serve Delicious, was released on the 9th of October 2013 on Steam. It focuses on building up a rundown restaurant in the Tarragon Super Tower, turning it into a Platinum Star establishment. After a huge success with the first game, it was revealed in mid-2015 that a sequel was to be made. 4 years later, on the 4th of September 2017, Cook Serve Delicious 2 was released. It continues at the Tarragon Tower, but instead the player cooks in all of the other 33 restaurants within it. And finally, in August of 2019, Cook Serve Delicious 3 was announced and later released on the 30th of January 2020 as part of Steam's Early Access. Unlike the first two, Cook Serve Delicious 3 takes place in a food truck. Spoilers! After the Tarragon Super Tower is blown up, the player must travel across war-torn America, accompanied by 2 robots, Whisk the driver and Cleaver the Guardian, stopping in various cities leading up to participating in the Iron Cook Food Speedway competition. In terms of content, Cook Serve Delicious 2 and 3 have about 400 levels each. However, the original goes off a day system, where players must tick off a checklist in order to upgrade their restaurant. With 20 days being the minimum per star of the restaurant, a 6-star system will result in players needing to play at least 120 days to complete the game. It is short in comparison to the other two, though it also has Hungry Festivities and the Iron Cook competition, which are challenges designed to test the player's ability of preparing specific cuisines and difficult menus. Roughly judging by my playtime on all 3 games, Cook Serve Delicious 1 has the least amount of content, following with Cook Serve Delicious 3 and then Cook Serve Delicious 2, with a 30-hour difference between them. In Cook Serve Delicious 2, new levels are unlocked by leveling up, and in Cook Serve Delicious 3 they are done so by meeting a certain number of medals, either gold, silver, or bronze. In Cook Serve Delicious 1, a level/day lasts for 13 hours, opening at 9 and closing at 10, while Cook Serve Delicious 2 starts at 6:50 and ends at 10. Again, Cook Serve Delicious 3 is different. Players travel on routes, each having a specific number of stops and a distance. Therefore, a day could be 5 minutes or it could be 15 minutes. Personally, I enjoy the short levels as they are less stressful to complete, and it doesn't matter as much if I completely stuff up an order and have to restart to get gold. In every Cook Serve Delicious game you have prepping stations, which are where food orders appear on the very left of your screen. In Cook Serve Delicious 1, the most you'll have to deal with is 8, which isn't too bad. However, in Cook Serve Delicious 2, that number goes all the way up to 14, which makes the later levels very difficult and painful. Customizability is one of Cook Serve Delicious 3's main features. You can choose from anywhere between 7 and 14 stations. However, the game tries to force you to have more stations as less points are required. In Cook Serve Delicious 3, foods are ranked from a 0 to 5 point scale. The higher the points, the harder yet more rewarding the foods are. Each level has a certain number of points that you must meet in order to start, ranging from 0 to 45. But with less stations equipped, the amount of points you are required to have will increase. Sorry if that made no sense, but let's continue. Cook Serve Delicious 2 introduced holding stations, where players can prep food and it doesn't matter if they stop the order, as they can just try again, as they're not serving customers. However, what is interesting is that there are multiple types of food you can create in these stations, these being holding station required, holding station optional, and sides. In order to serve a customer that has a holding station required tag on the meal, the holding station must be used in order to prepare the meal. However, if the food has a holding station optional tag, then players can strategically choose how they cook, though holding stations can cook multiple orders at a time. Sides are used to increase customers' patience. The more unique sides you have in your holding stations, the longer it will be until customers leave the restaurant if they are not attended to. It definitely becomes a challenge in the later levels without the use of sides, so just use them. Cook So Delicious 3 does not have sides. In Cook So Delicious 1 and 3, players get to pick from a catalogue of foods that they must purchase before using, but can then use forever. However, in Cook So Delicious 2, as you cook in the other restaurants, the menu is determined by the level. The only time you get to choose your foods in Cook So Delicious 2 is when you cook in your own restaurant. However, this isn't often as your main goal is getting gold medals in the other restaurants. In terms of numbers, Cook So Delicious 1 only has 30 foods, while Cook So Delicious 2 has 210. Whoa, that's crazy. But Cook So Delicious 3 has even more, with 231 foods to use for your very own menu. Aside from the actual food orders, in Cook So Delicious 1 and 2, players have to deal with chores. These include cleaning the dishes, dealing with pests, cleaning the toilets, setting rat traps, and taking out the trash. However, they could be minimized by upgrading your equipment to the max. By far, my favorite one that I didn't include above was dealing with robberies. By performing punches and kicks, players could fend off dangerous criminals. However, with the introduction of Cook So Delicious 3, all of these were made unavailable. I personally believe these added to the fun of the game, and without them in Cook So Delicious 3, everything seems a bit more bland. Cook So Delicious 3 also introduced auto serve. On the press of a button, all foods that are currently ready to be served will be. While I am appreciative of this feature in the later levels, it does generally make the levels easier, sometimes too easy. At 12 PM and 6 PM each day in Cook So Delicious 1 and 2, rush hour occurs. It is basically just more orders at a quicker pace, which makes the game more difficult. Similarly, Cook So Delicious has stops, which are the busiest times and the only times you can serve meals. However, in between them you can still cook and prepare food. Cook So Delicious terminology. A perfect day is when the player throughout the entirety of the day does not make any bad or average orders. A bad or average order may be the result of a wrong ingredient, undercooking or overcooking of food, missing key steps in the preparation, or simply missing an order as the customer has become impatient. In Cook So Delicious 2 and 3, players are rewarded with gold medals for achieving these perfect days. Cook So Delicious 2's biggest problem, however, is a lack of progression, as this is pretty much the player's only goal. As the levels are actually quite hard, players will tend to just get the achievements and stop playing. This is due to not having to beat every level to get every achievement. However, Cook So Delicious 3 revamps this and allows players to progress and complete the story without needing to be perfect. However, to unlock all the trinkets, which are decorative items, and get all the achievements, they must get the gold medals. This allows players who aren't as skilled to still enjoy the game and not have to stress over always being perfect. Cook So Delicious 1's progression is great. There are always new objectives to be achieved and strive towards as you consistently aim to level up your restaurant. There is co-op that is local, pretty cool, though I haven't played it. In Cook So Delicious 1, you can date people and maintain a relationship with them by serving them high quality food and responding to their text messages while cooking other meals. Sometimes, especially with the hard menu, it can be extremely difficult to keep a relationship going. Cook So Delicious 1 also has weekly challenges and upgradable food that unlocks new recipes the more stars it has. On your menu, you get to choose which item is the daily special, which I believe just appears the most often throughout the day. Cook So Delicious 1 has boosters and detractors that affect your buzz, which determine how satisfied customers are with your restaurant. As mentioned earlier, sides to increase customer patience and cooking in restaurants other than your own. As you progress on your journey to the Iron Cook Speedway competition, different food trucks will attack your own along the way. Each truck has their own attack, with such attacks including removing all your holding station foods, blocking one or two of your holding stations, or removing the cooking timers on your foods. Though the attacks are preventable via upgrades in the majority of the game, during the Iron Cook Speedway competition, players are forced to face these attacks, with multiple per level. Throughout the game, as you level up, you will receive a currency that will allow upgrades to be purchased. Extra prep stations and serving cloners are examples of upgrades that can be bought and without them, you'll have a much harder time. Cook So Delicious 3 also has very impatient customers in some levels and are quite annoying to deal with, considering you have to prioritize them to ensure you don't mess up. Cook So Delicious 3 has autoserve but no chores. In terms of difficulty between games, Cook So Delicious 2 is by far the hardest, with pretty much no customizability available towards favoring the player. Shifts such as Executives Decision 16 and Contrast Coffee 14 are difficult because you are forced to use their menus and can't change the number of prepping or holding stations. There is also no autoserve like in Cook So Delicious 3, which also adds to the amount of things the player has to worry about. Cook So Delicious 3 is next in difficulty. Autoserve and no chores to deal with decrease the difficulty within the game, as well as the highly customizable settings to help you out. Cook So Delicious 1 is easy, although not much customizability in terms of prepping stations. It doesn't have holding stations or many foods to perfect. Cook So Delicious 1 does a good job at simulating a restaurant, capturing key things that an employee would have to manage and deal with. Its simple graphics and easy to understand gameplay provide a charm that is engaging and worth experiencing. Cook So Delicious 1 gets a 9 out of 10. Cook So Delicious 2 ramps up the difficulty from the first game and expands the food catalog drastically. Players' abilities are truly tested as they master really obscure foods that nobody has seen or heard of, but look even more delicious than before, though it lacks progression and to many feels tedious and more frustrating the more you play. Cook So Delicious 2 gets 8 out of 10. Cook So Delicious 3 experiments with an interesting story and likable characters, though the game fails in attempting to fix some of its predecessor's faults, resulting in a much more repetitive playstyle that seems to make you burn out quicker. Cook So Delicious 3 gets a 7 out of 10, and overall, the series gets an 8 out of 10. Considering the amount of gameplay that each game offers, these prices are really good. You probably should start with Cook So Delicious 1 because I believe it is the best, despite the severe downgrade in graphics, and it is the simplest out of the three. After trying the first game, you'll have a likely idea in whether or not you will buy the other two.